So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our Gensler family all over the world. We're joining you from our Gensler Principals Retreat right here in California. In fact, this is the first time our principals have come together in almost 3 years. And, it seems like a decade. We've taken all the necessary protocols. We're outdoors. Even though it's freezing right now, we are outdoors. And, again, all of the testing and making sure that everyone's vaccinated. But we knew how important it was to come together. And the focus of this meeting is forward together. Because we've come through these 2 years, but we also know there's a great future ahead of us as well. Since 2019, the world has changed. But we at Gensler have been resilient. In fact, we have thrived. And this is what we're going to talk about today, is how we have thrived through the most challenging time probably in all of our lifetimes. And what does this mean for our future? Change is the word. Today is different, and we know tomorrow is going to be different as well. And the challenges that we are facing are coming faster and faster. How do we thrive during these difficult times? And that's what we're going to talk about, is design for a radically changing world.
So that's the theme of this presentation, design for a radically changing world. Why now? What makes this the milestone moment in our careers and lifetimes? Why right now? As we emerge from the past 2 years, design, and that's what Diane and I are going to talk about today, is the catalyst for massive positive change. We have a unique and profound role in making a positive impact and difference in the world. Every single day, you, the 6,500 people in this firm and the 300 principals that are here today, every day we impact millions upon millions of people's lives. How they live, how they work, how they play, and how they're healthy. Design for a radically changing world is about how we are making a difference in the world, how we are using design to solve the world's greatest challenges. This is about our leadership together as a unified team. The only way to make massive change take place is to inspire, to take the lead, to show people a future more exciting than the past. As designers, we take responsibility for inspiration. We don't leave it to chance. Design is the difference maker to solve some of the world's most urgent challenges and distinct and unbelievable opportunities. So what's it going to take? Strategy, expertise, ingenuity, courage, lots of courage, curiosity, and passion that we will positively impact the world.
15 to 20 years ago, we used to talk about the speed of change. I've been around long enough, and many of you have as well. But we were primarily focused on the kinds of changes that were happening because of technology. Technology was changing our lives. We talked about Moore's Law. How many people have heard of Moore's Law? And, it was this idea that, the capacity for computing was going to double every 18 months, and it was going to drop by half in terms of the cost, which means that, over a period of just a few years, the power of the computing that's in our phones and in everything would be radically increased and available at a fraction of the cost. And this was driving tremendous change. And as designers, we got faster and faster at what we were doing because our clients were experiencing this transformation due to mainly technology. But today, it's beyond those kinds of changes. We've got a title here, Crisis Multiplier. And what we're doing is reflecting upon the numerous crisis-producing changes that are compounding upon each other. They're multiplying the speed of change and the nature of the impacts that these changes are creating. And as a result, we're seeing challenges that we've never experienced before, ever. You know, Andy and I believe that this is, and what we've experienced in these last couple of years, that we're already beginning to see significant impacts on design. And again, we're talking about design in this radically changing world, being driven by this crisis multiplier effect. And let's walk through, 5 drivers that are really producing this compounding effect that we've all already started going through. First, the pandemic. Over 6 million people already have died from COVID-19. And unfortunately, we've even reached the 1 million person mark here in the United States. And across the globe, we see countries balancing lockdowns and vaccines and therapeutics and strategies to fight against these new variants. And we all know it's not over. Many of us have experienced some of these effects. Every family has been impacted, and our hearts go out to all of your families who have been impacted in one way or another by this incredible pandemic. This is a paradigm shift in human health that shows how vulnerable we are. How this world is connected, how something that happens on the other side of the world can impact everyone across the world. And it only took a few weeks. We pivoted as a firm and changed how we interacted, how we worked. We addressed our clients' needs. We stayed connected and relevant through our research, through our focus, our white papers, and our newsletters, and we rose to the challenge.
So the second multiplier, 2 years ago, right on the heels of COVID, came the horrific killing of George Floyd, bringing directly forward the devastating and long-term consequences of racial injustice. That was the catalyst for the world taking action. We immediately leaned in and into the challenge and developed 5 key strategies for fighting racism. We formed our Global Race and Diversity Committee, and it's led by Allison and Andre and Jean and Diane and Vaki. You're going to see a panel later on that Jason Pugh is going to moderate with these leaders. It's just going to be incredible. We introduced Black Lives and Design Research Grants. We launched Student Design Charrette with the 7 historically Black colleges and universities, and it's been an amazing, amazing process. And we published our first diversity report for transparency to our demographics, and that was a big deal. We're the only firm that came out early and reflectively and transparency and showed our demographics of how we're made up of, so we can look at ourselves and be proud of what we're accomplishing. And we're embracing diversity and inclusion in every single thing we're doing.
And then, of course, climate change. Climate change is really coming into its own as a fundamental driver in our world. Not only is the climate changing, but the regulations and investments in every part of the world is changing as well, and it's going to change how our clients think. ESG, which is a term I'm sure everyone is familiar with now. We never heard of that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now it's, at the front of everyone's mind. ESG reporting is changing the goalposts for our clients and our developers in every single community. And if you haven't had that conversation with your clients, it's coming. Are we ready? And we have to help our clients cross this new hurdle, something they know nothing about, but we can be there to really help them to achieve what is now being asked of them. As the most innovative and the largest firm in the world, we're meeting this challenge and head on. We've heard of the strategies, and you're going to hear a lot more about our strategies in GC3. And we need every single person here to take that next step, to go, frankly, where it's going to stretch you, it's going to stretch all of us. But that's what this moment is all about. We're creating green specifications that are going to be on all of our projects. We're going to draw the line and say these materials we're not going to use, these others we will. We're going to start counting the carbon on our projects. This is a massive change, but it's happening around us, and we are ready for that challenge.
So the next crisis multiplier that there is a new world order, and it's shifting radically. Just last week at Davos, we saw discussions about the end of globalization. Countries have formed very different COVID policies. We've seen that over the last 2 years, and how that's created havoc around the globe. An incredible impact on supply chains are being totally interrupted. The global balance of power is radically shifting, with energy and food scarcities the biggest issues. Then 3 months ago, the horrific war in the Ukraine broke out and has changed the global alliances and narrative about global ambitions and territorial approaches. What will be key for us, is how we run a global company in this new world order and how we stay ahead of these challenges.
And if all of that wasn't enough, now there's massive global and economic volatility. The R word is being used: recession, inflation, all of these dynamics that really create a whole different economic environment, frankly, one that we haven't seen in most of your working lifetimes. When I started out of college, there was double-digit inflation. It was a very, very different environment for developers and for businesses. The pandemic shook the global economy, and we're still experiencing those aftershocks in the form of the inflation, the supply chain, the cost of everything. We have to help our clients do more with less. That's a concept, that's a mindset that we're going to have to start leaning into, because it's happening fast. This is not something that's going to be 18 months from now. This is happening fast, in addition to all of the other kinds of dynamics that are out there. We have to be vigilant, and we have to be nimble, and we have to pivot with our clients. Again, we have clients who are like, it's a blank check, and it feels like they want everything. Well, their board is going to turn around in the next couple of weeks and say, look, we need to cut that budget in half, or let's put that on the slow go. We've got to be ready, we've got to be nimble, and we've got to help our clients as this change is moving all around the globe.
So what this shows is our world is changing radically. We're encountering these crises like never before in our lifetimes. Wave after wave of compounding global challenges, impacting the future of society and the world. Our ability to see what's ahead is critical in succeeding. Being, as Diane said, agile, flexible, and pivoting quickly will be essential. And design, what we do, is the game changer, the differentiator. Design is critical to shaping our future. Design and the human experience couldn't be more important than now.
So let's talk about design. In the past, design was part of an ecosystem, but it was a piece, and we would address issues in each different area. In work or lifestyle or community, these were isolated projects, and issues were pretty tightly defined, without really a mindset of how they connect together. We believe design is changing, and we also really believe, in the good news for us is this is a massive opportunity for Gensler.
The big paradigm shift is that design is at the heart of integrated solutions. Design is the common denominator spanning across all sectors that we're involved with. Design is the catalyst for complex problem solving. Design unifies all the common elements on this slide. Design strategy and thinking is the difference maker. This is Gensler's role and could not be more important in a radically changing world.
We're going to talk about a few examples of how this is actually already a key part of our ethos. The world needs that kind of connected thinking, and we're already there. From the climate crisis, the future of resilience is about taking action to address these issues. For example, we know that the design of the workplace actually impacts how we think about carbon as it relates to our cities. We're already seeing that, long commutes are something that are being challenged as we look at what's happening with not only mobility, but with the climate crisis as well. So thinking holistically, which is how our firm is set up, our practice areas and how we connect between these conversations is the power and breadth of our firm.
It's interesting. Many of you are out on the speaking trail about climate change right now. And what we see is people don't understand that buildings are the largest contributor to CO2. When we're out there speaking, people think automobiles or industry are, but buildings, our industry, is 40% of all CO2 creation. As the most innovative firm in the world, the largest firm in the world, we're taking this challenge head on. We've created the GC3, net zero buildings by 2030. This is a huge undertaking for our organization. We're creating the next generation of net zero buildings. We're already working on hundreds of net zero buildings already. It's really an imperative for us moving forward, and we're really focused on it. You can hear this over and over again, how important this is, not to 2030, but in the next 3 years, how we have to take action around net zero. So the next thing we want to talk about is cities, and cities in flux. We are shaping the future of cities, and it's incredible. We've been doing these city pulse surveys. And congratulations to Sophia and Christine and Tim. We're doing an incredible job. Our clients are coming to our website to see the latest trends and research on cities. And what they're finding is 2/3 of urban residents, 2/3, believe city life should be completely rethought from our study. 2/3. 42% of people want to leave the city they're in. That's a pretty incredible statistic. So here are the 5 key takeaways. The 3 on top are positive. Again, this is from Sophia and Christine and Tim. The neighborhood design is so important. It's about being authentic and safe and clean. Employment, this is the top 3. Employment and job growth and career enhancement are essential for cities. And the third one that is absolutely really important is transportation. And look how transportation has been completely upturned by COVID and all the issues of safety and people not wanting to take mass transit. And in LA here, we barely have a mass transit system, and the roads are clogged again because everyone wants to be one person to one car. And on the bottom of this chart, big city problems, too big, too crowded, noisy. And affordability being a huge issue in residential. Affordability and the inflation pressures that are being put on people around the world.
The survey also found that 1/3 of urban residents do not feel safe in their own cities. How does design really address that issue? Are we going to let our cities be gated and exclusive areas and creating boundaries and barriers? Is that how we're going to solve it? And believe me, some designers are more than willing to approach things in that way. How do we really think about the human experience as we're solving some of these critical issues? Designing improvements that have the power to make our cities both more accessible as well as safer, and really building on those traditions of community building that are part of the legacy of design for centuries. How do we bring that forward into creating safer as well as inclusive communities? Top cities, and we, again, the incredible research that we've done, and those top cities also have an abundance of affordable housing and affordable experience, as we would say, and transportation. Health and wellness, and this is frankly a very new area for us, and it's been extraordinary to see the explosion in our work in this segment. And you can tell that the firms that have been doing health and wellness for years have been bringing old thinking into the mix. And our clients are looking for the future. They understand that things are changing rapidly. What are the new ideas? What's the next? What's the innovative way of approaching these things? And our amazing team in health and wellness, led by Chad and others in this room, and thank you for your incredible leadership and thinking, but it's a great example of how our firm can come together, irrespective of a client, come together on our own and create an idea of the building of the future. And this was the sciences building of the future, the lab building of the future, called NEXT. And it's a great concept. And again, it's really addressing the fact that there's so much going on in the sciences right now, a lot propelled by this experience that we're having with the pandemic and the recognition that the life sciences are going to need to really, get ahead of where we are today, because again, a lot of these issues have been out there, but we haven't addressed them. So there's a massive push. There's new kinds of laboratory approaches and approaches to science that are needing to take place in buildings that were never designed for the kinds of things that our scientists need to do. This next building allows for all those new types of technologies, as well as being a sustainable and net zero building as well.
Think about it. Chad and Kevin and Eric and Justin took the initiative right before COVID, and came out with this lab building of the future. And it's gotten millions of hits online as Gensler and the leader in the life science practice. Our health sector started 7 years ago. For many, many years, we only had 3 sectors. In fact, for many years, Art would say to us, "Why the hell do we want to be in health?" Well, we did it. We're in health, and it's just been amazing. And it's 3 years ago, we started our life science practice. Just check this out. 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, and we saw the opportunity, as in many of our other practice areas, that we are looking at through a different lens, the user experience lens. So we're working with the biggest names out there. Think about what we've accomplished in the last 3 years. We're working with Pfizer, we're working with Moderna, we're working with Johnson & Johnson. And then on buildings, we're working with the largest developers, life science developers in the world. Alexandria, IQHQ, Biomed, Trammell Crow, so many other leaders. This practice area, in 3 short years, is now $60 million in revenue for us. Just an amazing growth curve for our firm. So, changing lifestyles. Think of how COVID has impacted our lifestyle sectors. Think about how retail and hospitality and sports and mixed use and brand shut down 2 years ago, literally shut down. No one was going to live experiences. Now there's tremendous pent-up demand for experiential design. And we are now redefining the user experience. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. I had the opportunity to go to Austin, Texas a couple of weeks ago. And we opened up Moody Center. Congratulations to Todd and Jonathan Emmett and Kirk Funkhauser for creating this music center of the future. It's 18,000 seats. It's already been voted the best experience for music in the United States. Pretty remarkable. Congratulations to that team. And our residential practice area, which just started a few years ago too, is growing and is needed, as Diane said, in every single city. We created the Residential Experience Index, and we're discussing what makes a great living experience. And the team is measuring how people leverage homes differently. For example, adaptability and flexibility of spaces. As people have been working and living at home, how do you have convertible spaces that work 24/7 in that type of environment?
As Andy said, probably one of the most profound conversations going on in most cities is housing. The shortage of housing. How are we addressing that conversation, that massive demand? That's not only going to be a demand today, but when you look at the numbers, that deficit in housing is going to take years and years and decades to address. But it also needs to be affordable. It also needs to meet all of the needs of great places that we've talked about. Now we're realizing that, people don't want to live in the outer burbs, that, housing needs to be where there are places of employment. So again, how do we solve this issue with understanding that entire spectrum? Maybe some of the malls that we're repositioning that are in some of the suburban areas need to be transformed into city centers. Again, this kind of thinking that looks at problems not just from the standpoint of one isolated area or one isolated question about what should I do with X, but how do we solve these issues? And they're only going to be solved when we really start to connect the dots. So work, this concept of working anywhere. Over the past 2 years, I think we could all agree that nothing has been more impacted or more controversial in many ways than work. First, the pandemic impacted where we work. And then it started to impact how we are designing workplaces. This change in the economy is also going to impact work. The way that we design office buildings is going to be transformed because of climate change, which is going to impact work. I guarantee that we won't even recognize our workplaces in 20 years. Massive change is happening in this area, and we are at the center of advising our clients. It was amazing during COVID how all of you became, the number one advisor to your client. All of a sudden, the CEO wanted to know, what are we doing with workplace? It always wasn't, it was like the real estate person or the facilities person or someone else outside of the C-suite that was really cognizant or even thinking about workplace as a core part of their strategy. But all of a sudden, workplace became one of the top tier items and continues to be. And our teams, our research teams, our practice area leaders, and frankly, across the firm, we are having this conversation, we're advising our clients, and we're really helping to shape this dialogue. In fact, I think we were one of the first voices, one of the first companies out there in 2020 with a survey of people working from home. We began that trend that we see. All of these surveys, we were probably one of the first or second out there in 2020. That's how influential that Gensler has been in setting the tone of the conversation, staying ahead of the conversation, and frankly, trying to think about what are the real implications for our cities, and how do we use this moment to make workplace better?
So what's the future of workplace? I love that Janet came up with this statement. Make the office a destination, not an obligation. Just love that. Make the office a destination, not an obligation. Because offices, when you meet with CEOs, they're all talking about that offices convey a company's culture and purpose and brand. Our Gensler research showed that there was a 37% drop-off in collaboration during COVID, 37%. And what's incredible is today in our workplace, in our firm, we know this, 52% of all employees are millennials today. And by 2030, 75% will be millennials, 75% of the workforce being millennials. And they want choice, they want variety, and they want a company that cares about the talent in their organization. So how do we make the office an experience multiplier, Our teams around the world are working on the idea of taking out the ubiquitous rows and rows of desks and creating living room settings, private settings for 3 and 4 people, and incorporating amenities. As we hear over and over again, amenities are so important, creating vibrancy in third places. A great example is, and our board of directors was in Chicago about 3 weeks ago. It was incredible to see this project. It was called 167 North Green. And we did the building and the interiors. And in this building, the amenities were amazing. They were on the top floor of the building, not in the basement or on the first floor, the top floor of the building. And on the top floor of the building, they created this, our team, Chicago team, created this incredible multi-purpose space. That's also a basketball court. So now the Chicago Bulls practice there. Everyone wants to be in this building because it is the latest state-of-the-art building. And the building is attracting the highest rents in Chicago. Just incredible. Really. We're also creating the next generation of post-COVID buildings. Sustainable, touchless, and frictionless buildings, all about healthy buildings. You know, indoor, outdoor is all we're hearing. Big sliding doors that open up with great gardens and workspace on the outside. Another example when we were in Chicago was the Chicago Post Office. Another phenomenal project. 2 million square feet that was built, renovated. It was a renovation, historic renovation of the post office. And the amenities here are phenomenal. But on the roof, there's a 2 million square foot garden that people can go up to and experience the outdoors. Again, congratulations to the Chicago office.
So what we're describing is an evolution in our work, an evolution in design. You know, how do we design for a radically changing world?
So how do we change? How do we design? And this diagram really, picks it up. We leaned into the challenges of the last 2 years and developed this innovative approach. This is an approach they're going to be rolling out throughout the firm. Because the crisis multiplier is the new reality. And you can see on the slide, the first step, crisis and change, defining the challenges. And that's what we've been doing over the last 2 years. And questioning, curiosity, researching, and observing. And the second center bullet, transition and transformation, imagining the possibilities, creating optionality, right? And fast track idea creation. And then from there, rebalancing the priorities to experimentation and anticipating new designs with new, fresh design solutions, new paradigms, and new offerings. This approach is why this type of approach is why every time we go into a recession, and when we came out of this recession faster than any other firm in our industry, it's because of this type of design evolution with speed to market of ideas.
You know, this is all part of our history, and I guess kind of started with art, but this is, we always talk about what is the secret sauce, but one of the things I always loved about Gensler and why I joined and why I've stayed all these years is that, we don't reject change. We don't wait for the thing that we don't like to go away. We embrace it. As Andy said, going through this process of trying to understand, having empathy for our clients, getting out there and rolling up our sleeves. We have the courage and attitude and mental fortitude to lean into what's going on outside of our doors. We don't bolt the door and wait for it to go away. There's an opportunity in there. I'll never forget when Joe Brancato, when the financial downturn happened, and there was a client we had, a very well-known client that unfortunately went bankrupt, but their space was available. He had another client actually that was looking for space, and he figured out how to get that deal done and really, made a huge difference, for one of our key clients. I mean, that's leaning in, that's seeing opportunity. This attitude is why we're different from other firms. You wonder why, and we're going to show you kind of our growth curve. There's no other firm in the world, in our industry, that has had that growth curve. And this is why. This is why. This is why. Because we roll up our sleeves and we embrace the change, we see the opportunity, and we lean in and listen to our clients. It's reflected in the big picture of who we are, yes, as a firm, but also on every single project. But the real interesting thing, and I would say this is the aha, is that it's not just this kind of linear process. And especially with, as we talked about, all of the crises and changes that are happening, this is actually continuous. And when Andy and I were, working on what are we going to talk about in this conversation today, we said, what have we learned? Let's step back and just really look, and observe what has happened in these last 2 years. What's different? it's this speed of this evolution, the speed of how we're going from these events, these crises, these changes, to the experimenting and trying stuff and really getting out there, to the shaping of that future next paradigm, and then that next happening right on top of it. And the research is an important part of what we've been doing, but also the design charrettes and the design synergy group, and Jordan and Joe and Jean leading these amazing design charrettes that were kind of getting that experimentation and ideation out there all over the firm, and then how it starts to show up in our projects. And this going on over and over and over again throughout our firm.
This is the Gensler transformation cycle. This is our differentiated competitive advantage, a continuous design evolution cycle. We're connecting the dots. This approach informs our creativity. This is also about what our clients are wanting every day. They're looking for this. This is the differentiator. This process defines our go-to-market strategies and ultimate success, our true north, and ultimately designs our design strategies to make a difference in the world.
So, how our firm has embraced these kind of changes actually has happened throughout our history. And for those of you who've been around for a while, this is kind of the history of our firm. We started in 1965, and we're a 50-some-odd-year-old company right now. And if you look at our history, we've been through a number of these kinds of moments, these moments of major change and crisis in the world, from the oil crisis to the credit crunch and S&L meltdown to the 9/11 dot-com bubble to the subprime and mortgage crisis to where we are today. And we just wanted to talk about how, while all that was going on, how Gensler actually was transforming through those and using what was happening to really shape our strategy and transform our firm. I mean, when we're looking at this line, that's actually our revenue line. So, again, it has been the momentum that we have felt. And it's not just about the revenue. I think that is about, are we doing the right thing for our clients and our communities? Because we wouldn't be the firm that they're reaching out to if we weren't solving the challenges that they need to have solved. And that's our clients speaking. So if we look at, again, just who we are as a firm at the very, very beginning, I don't know if you guys can read this, but we talk about being the disruptor firm. When Art started this firm, he did something no other architect did, which was to focus on interior design of corporations and companies. That was the genius move. And Art would also say, and he charged more than other architects. But quickly, it was not just about being in this unique place, it was about excellence in design. And, again, becoming this amazing interior design giant. We defined what great interior design was. It wasn't just, laying out space plans. It was about creating an experience, creating the brand of the organization, and really developing a distinct look and feel in all of our design. And I would say, as we walk through this, that it's not about any of these beginning and ending. It's about additive. So again, being a disruptor is part of our genome from the beginning. Excellence in design. And then the practice area explosion from like 1985 to 1995. That is an important time. Andy joined the firm then. I joined the firm then. Many of us kind of rose into some kind of a beginning leadership role in our firm at that time. And what was that all about? And why did that align with the S&L meltdown? Well, like today, that crisis, and it doesn't look like a whole lot here, but that was a massive crisis, not only in our country, but in our industry. In fact, so many firms went out of business during that time. It was when AECOM started. they started from gathering up a lot of firms that were actually, on their last leg. There was a company called PHH that bought up pretty much half the top firms in interior design. I don't know if any of you remember PHH and that experience. Well, that firm that bought the firms went out of business, and a massive part of our entire interior design industry went south. Why? Because there was no work. Well, one of the things that Gensler did during that time was to really look at other areas of practice. Andy started the aviation practice. There was a tremendous focus, Tom Ito focusing on hospitality, Ray and the team focusing on taking what we had been doing in retail, turning it into a practice area. A group of us who were, focused on workplace said, look, it's not about interior design, it's about workplace. And we started the workplace practice area. This was the practice area explosion of our firm, and it was a direct response to what was happening outside our doors. But it also created amazing fuel for our growth. And we came out of that recession stronger than any other firm in the industry. Similarly, going global between 95 and 2005, there was a dot-com bubble in 2001. Again, tremendous challenges around the world, but what that did was opened up opportunity in the Middle East because a huge amount of investment was going there. And our firm was able to create relationships that moved us into doing work in Dubai. But also, Janet Pogue and June Shaw in the Denver office said, look, we know, June was, I know people in Shanghai. Maybe we can try to get some work in Shanghai. That was the beginning of our incredible, incredible Shanghai office, the Shanghai Tower, and again, a real focus on how are we working all over the world, in Latin America, all over Europe, and became an important part of our growth and our strategy as a firm. Similarly, in the crisis of the subprime mortgage, and most of us were probably in leadership roles at that time, and I talked about Joe's story, but so many stories of how do we lean in. I think this was where the client focus became so much a core area of strategy for the firm, because we saw that the more we embraced our clients, the more opportunities were unlocked, because we cared, not just to get the work, but we cared about what was going on in our client's shop. And that was the beginning of that amazing growth spurt. And then, over the last, since 2015, Andy and I have been talking about shaping the future of cities. In that period, that was when, from the world population standpoint, more people were living in cities than not. This was the time, from the standpoint of human history, that the balance tipped toward people living in cities, and the expectation of that growth of our cities was something that's just palpable. As the largest firm in the world, that's where the biggest challenges were going to be, and we knew that that's where our firm needed to be. And soon thereafter, what we saw with COVID-19.
So this chart is the end of that buildup. This is what you all have all been through over the last 2 years. This is the seesaw, and you saw that incredible run that Diane showed up to about a $1.5 billion company. And I could tell you at that point that no one in the world knew that COVID was coming. And I remember specifically, we worked night after night trying to figure out with the board and the executive committee and the leadership operations committee, we had to figure out how we're going to deal with this when we learned COVID was going around the world, and how we're going to deal with it. How are we going to get people home safely? We're the first architectural firm to send their home people safely. We had to get all our drawings up onto the web and get everyone home. And there you could see the incredible 20% drop, and all of us felt like the bottom fell out on us because clients were stopping projects. I think all in told, there was something like 800 projects that went on hold. Our business, the bottom fell out. But we knew the history Diane just showed. We knew that it was going to spring back. We didn't know how long. Diane and I called it actually 2 years at the time, and certainly that's basically what it was, because we had the bottom at 20% down, and this year, closing March 31st, we closed 15% up, and as of this, Linda Havard sent the stats out of this month, we're actually even with where we were at the beginning of COVID, and what you're all predicting in the budget is that we're going to grow 28% this year, 28% in growth. That's going to take us to 1.8 billion. And that is because of your leadership. That chart is because of your leadership. You did that.
So what got us here, what made this all possible, it's about our people, our culture, our community, all of you across the firm. You know, every person matters at Gensler. You know, that is, again, the amazing secret sauce. You know, we don't want people to fit into a mold. We want you to bring your unique talents and strengths to our firm. That's what diversity is about. It's this incredible, rich array of ideas and energy that has made all of that possible. And we are so inspired by what you do every single day.
So what's our philosophy? For 57 years, grow our people, grow the firm. Grow our people, grow the firm. Thank you for all of your tremendous courage and fortitude and perseverance as we navigated the pandemic. How? How can Gensler grow in the middle of a pandemic? How did we achieve that chart? What's the secret sauce? We say it every year, but for those new people, and there's a lot of new people out there that have joined us during COVID, for all those new people, it's about our one firm family culture. We're a family. We came out stronger because we're a unified team and we're seamlessly integrated around the world. Our we versus I family culture, our constellation of stars. So here you could see, you know, the diverse people, 6,500 people in 16 countries now. We're in 16 countries. Last year, we worked in over 100 countries in the middle of COVID. Tell me how that happens. It happens because of your leadership. 25, as I said before, 2,500, think about this, 2,500 new people in the last 2 years have joined us. That's who's watching this broadcast. Let's give them a hand. 2,500. Right now, we're hiring 50 people a week. That would add up to more than 2,000 people we're going to hire this year. That would be the third largest design firm in the world we're hiring in 1 year. That's what you're all accomplishing. So what makes this so special? It really is this rich combination of new people that have joined us with fresh ideas and people in this audience that have been with our firm 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. We're going to be celebrating on Saturday night all those milestone anniversaries.
And I'll just say it again, our people are the differentiator. You're what make us special and unique. You know, and we also want to recognize our team members in China who are just emerging from the lockdown. Our hearts are with you. You know, this has truly been a banner year in so many ways. It's just a transformational year. You know, we pursue design excellence, you know, because it's in our DNA and because of again, just who we are and how we think. We don't do it for the praise and the recognition, but it's amazing to see the incredible recognition that our firm has achieved by your efforts. You know, you've gained the attention of media and organizations around the world.
And I'll point out 3 key milestones on here. One is, and it's really important, the most admired firm by our peers. That's significant, that we're the most admired firm in the world by our peers. And look at that number 1 list. Number 1 in offices, retail, hospitality, transportation, culture, heritage. It just keeps on going. Number 1 in all those different practice areas. And then what we're really proud of is winning Fast Company's most innovative companies. That was a significant milestone for our firm. You know, we're leading the conversation with our clients in the latest trends. Our point of view has never been more important than now. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of articles that are being written, blogs. People are out there giving speeches. I'll give you an example of the fastest win that I know of in my career that I've heard about it. It was Nate Cherry in the LA office. He wrote a blog about innovation in entertainment districts. And so our client in Manchester City read the blog, got hold of Nate, and said, we want to interview you virtually. We want to interview your London office, and we want to interview your LA office virtually for this project. So that was on a Friday. On Monday, early in the morning, it was one of those calls at like 4 in the morning, there was a call, and we won the project. So that was 2 days, win the project, write a blog, win the project. And finally, our share of voice. We're constantly measuring our share of voice on social media. How many people are really hitting our website? How many people are reading these articles? It's just amazing. And you see those stats. And a special call out, and he's not here today, unfortunately couldn't make it, but he's watching this, is to Tim Martin. Because Tim Martin was on Bloomberg Middle East, and they interviewed Tim on what the latest trends are coming out of Gensler. How great is that? Congratulations.
Because of the leadership in every corner of the firm, it's just amazing to see what's happening out there. Our communities of leadership, and we always talk about our communities, and it's our communities of leadership that are a key driver of our transformation and growth. We've had and we've evolved we look at our history, and there's also kind of an evolution of our structure and how we're organized as we've grown and as we've had different areas of practice that we've developed. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, we launched the Communities of Leadership, and it's been unbelievable in terms of how it's ignited just explosive energy and focus and growth throughout the firm. And this is where innovation is taking place in so many ways, creating opportunities for people. Each community is focused on how we can create opportunity and how we can find ways to make a difference in the world. It's all about leadership. Each of our communities is led by an incredible pair of leaders who together make up our Leadership Operations Committee. We started the Leadership Operations Committee, I think, about 2 years ago. Jordan and Julia, who lead our regions and offices. And Jordan is focused on our US regions, and Julia is focused on our international regions. Cindy and Whitley are co-leading our Client Relationships Community. Jean and Joe are co-leading Design Synergy, and Ray and John co-leading our practice areas.
And a very special call out to Cindy Simpson, our chair of the Leadership Operations Committee. Thank you, Cindy. And with the LOC, please stand up. LOC. LOC, stand up. Take a hand. LOC. So this is our global platform. These regional managing principal leaders are the engine of our firm. Especially during COVID, these leaders hung closely together as a unified team. The regional managing principals are totally interconnected as a leadership team. And you could see here, covering 10 regions, 51 offices in 16 countries. And this year, we're thrilled to announce 2 new offices. A new office in Nashville, Tennessee, and an office in Riyadh and KSA.
And a special thank you to Jordan and Julia, our new co-firm managing principals, for your incredible leadership. Can you please stand? We want to recognize both of you. Where's Julia? There you are. We are so excited about the role that they are taking in leading and working with Andy and I, leveraging us, leading our offices and regions, and really rolling up their sleeves. And thank you to all the regional managing principals from around the firm. Please stand up. Thank you for all that you do. Let's give these amazing leaders a round of applause. Client relationships. Our incredible client relationships are what drive us forward. As we saw in so many ways, that last massive swoosh in the Gensler, in our Gensler chart, is really a lot about our growth of our client relationships, our focus on client relationships, our strategies in client relationships. With 740 new clients just this year. And by the way, we normally get about anywhere from 900 to 1,000 new clients a year. So, it's amazing the number of new clients that are coming to Gensler because they see that we're offering something different. Gensler clients, again, look at this amazing chart. Gensler clients are the top of the top. 7 of the top 10 media companies, 9 of the top 10 tech companies, 9 of the top 10 commercial banks, 9 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies. And you could say the same thing with our law firms, our developers. In every single area, we are working with the best of the best.
And you can see the one stat on here, top 100 clients, 47% of our revenue. That's just incredible, the top 100. Talk really quickly, a quick story about the largest market cap company in the world, Apple. And we give credit to Stacy Cannon and Elif in the San Diego office. They have been working on millions of square feet of interiors. And I tell this story for a reason. I'm friendly with Christina Raspi, who runs the real estate part of Apple. And we had a conversation. We were talking about some of the interiors we were doing. And I said, hey, I hear you're doing a new campus on the East Coast. Can you give us a shot? And she said, well, Andy, we probably have, 5, 6 different architects looking at this campus, which now I can announce is in near Raleigh. At least Chad told me I can announce it, right, Chad? And what was incredible is this is an incredibly wooded site. And Christina said, well, let's see what you can do, Gensler. And so I reached out to Jordan, and Jordan led an incredible design team with Chad being the local Raleigh expert, Vaki, the experienced leader, Jill, the interior designer, Katie Messina on sustainability. And we presented in New York. Again, they were talking to 5 other architects, and every other architect put the buildings in this incredibly rolling site, right? They put all the buildings at the top of the hill so you can see them for miles. And what our team did is listen carefully and work with the landscape. And Jordan is going to show this project, I believe, tomorrow. And the buildings are actually in the landscape. And we won, they told us right after that presentation in New York, after a lot of work, we won that assignment. And then right after that, we found out, thanks to James Lee, who's here, we won the LA assignment, which is 600,000 square feet. And we just got a call last week, and I can't tell you what it is because I'll have to kill you. But we won 6 million square feet more last week. So that's a client story. Thank you to the client relationship leaders team. Thank you, Cindy and Whitley. Cindy and Whitley, stand up. Client relationship lead, stand up. Stand up. Client relations, stand up. Design synergy community has thrived over the last 2 years. This is where the rubber meets the road for our organization. World-class design. Congrats to the 150 studios that are watching this broadcast out here, putting together world-class design, all focused on our GC3 strategy around net zero. And our awards program. Think about what this team puts on for our awards. Right after this, we're going to have GRIA, the Gensler Research and Innovation Awards, with a phenomenal jury. Thank you to Amanda and Valeria and Tim for putting that together. And thank you for the Gensler Design Excellence Awards, which will be later this year. Thank you to Benji and Lauren for their tremendous leadership. All these are award-winning juries, and we're the only firm that invites outside juries to really critique our work.
And thank you so much to the overall Design Synergy leadership who we're going to have stand up for in a moment. But I wanted to bring special focus to design resilience, because we have all the different areas of design synergy. But there probably wasn't a part of this presentation where we didn't talk about something related to climate change, or a strategy related to climate change, or the fact that that is probably one of the most significant changes that we're all going to experience in our lifetime in terms of how we practice as architects. And we have leaders who have tirelessly focused on this area in design resilience. I want to have Reeves and Kirsten please stand up. We just want to recognize you guys. And there are other wonderful leaders, Anthony and David and Gail, but I want to point out those 2 individuals who probably for the last 20 years back before this was on the top line of Gensler priorities, have really been making sure that our firm was out there. Thank you guys. We want to thank the entire Design Synergy community. If you guys could stand, Joe and Jean, in your leadership, thank you all for your amazing leadership. And then our practice areas. We have 26 areas of practice, 4 sectors now, and growing. You know, you'll be hearing some amazing trends. I don't want to give away the story in terms of a lot of what you're going to see this afternoon from our practice area leaders. But as we all know, over this last 2 years, our clients were reaching out to our practice area leaders, and our practice area leaders were rising to the challenge. You know, what is changing? How is the airport changing? How is the workplace changing? What's happening with retail? What's going on with hospitality? What should I do with my, my hotel project? Should I focus on mixed use? Oh, the sciences. All of this was right there in front of our practice area leaders. That became their day job, getting in front of clients, creating webinars and writing newsletters and blogs. And we just heard about, amazing blogs that were bringing clients in and, what's going on with our cities and getting out there on the speaking circuit. They rose to the challenge, guys. This was the front face of our firm, and you guys met the challenge. Thank you so much to every practice area leader in our firm. Thank you, guys.
Thank you to Ray and John. Ray and John, stand up. Ray and John and all the sector leaders. Give them a hand. Unbelievable. And the CoCEO Hub. You can't forget about the CoCEO Hub, right? They are incredible heroes. Imagine guiding a firm while most of us were sitting in our homes and running it seamlessly. We have the best, I'm announcing today, we have the best CoCEO Hub leadership team we've had in the 57-year history, covering communications and global and research and people and technology. This team deserves a hell of a lot of credit.
Many thanks to Philippe, who unfortunately isn't with us, but also to Scott Dunlap. Scott, are you out there? Please stand. Thank you so much for your incredible leadership of the Hub. And thank you to all of our tremendous leaders. Could you all stand up? The leaders of the CoCEO Hub. Where are you guys?
Hub.
Leslie and Michael and Christine and Jim. Congratulations and thank you all for your leadership. And then last but not least, we mentioned last night that this was a unique meeting. And normally with our principals meeting, the next day is when we bring our shareholders together, which is all of you, and have a meeting of our shareholders and talk about what's going on with our board. But we're actually going to do that in September because that needs to happen always at the same time on the calendar. But our board is at work all year long and doing amazing work in support of this firm and its long-term strategies and its what's going on in terms of its strength as a business. And we just want to thank all of our board for your vision and focus in propelling us forward.
A really special thank you. And this guy is working his tail off. He's a superhero. Joe Brancato, for being our chair of the board.
Joe, stand up, Joe. Woo!
Thank you to our board of directors. Board of directors,
please stand.
Board of directors,
please stand.
There they are.
This is an incredible community of leadership, and this is what it takes. And together we are creating a better world. We're proud of the leadership of this firm and ready to take on new challenges with amazing strength. I mean, any firm would be thrilled to have, 3 of the great leaders that we have in this firm. And there's probably, I know Julia has counted it, but we have hundreds of amazing leaders leading this firm in all of the areas that we just talked about. This is our strength. I always say that Gensler is a firm about leadership. Leadership is what drives our firm. It's what Art really was all about. If you were to just strip away everything, he was about growing leaders, about pouring the mentoring and the opportunities. It's not just the mentoring, but also creating opportunities for people. And he always talked about growth and why growth, and he'd always say to create opportunities for people. And that is what this firm is all about. And we are so proud to be working with an amazing, amazing team of leaders in every part of the firm.
So to bring this presentation back to where we started, designing for a radically changing world. Design is the catalyst for positive change. We're challenging the status quo and channeling our creativity and ingenuity. As Diane and I have said, we're poised to have the best year in the history of our firm. Yet there are a lot of storm clouds out there. But we believe in our vision and our purpose. And most importantly, we believe in you. Let's recognize, and we want the live audience here to recognize the 6,300 people watching this broadcast. Please get up on your feet and recognize the 6,300. Woo! Give them a hand. Woo!
Wow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So, as we close out this talk this morning, we wanted to share a quote that is a meaningful quote to both Andy and I, and it's from Teddy Roosevelt, a U.S. president many, many decades ago. And this, I think this quote is very meaningful to so many people because it talks about what it takes to be a champion, what it takes to do something hard, and to dare to do something great. And I'll take a moment maybe and just pause while people kind of read this quote. Maybe I'll read it. It's not the critic who counts, not the people who point out how the strong person might stumble or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the people who are actually in the arena, whose faces are marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive valiantly, who spend themselves in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end that the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail, they at least fail while daring greatly. It's an incredible quote. It's saying that if you're going to try something great, that you open yourself up to criticism, and maybe that's a difficult place. We want to reduce carbon in the world. We want to help to heal our communities. We want to do something about social justice. These are big statements. It's easier to step back and let someone else take on these tough challenges, right? But as Teddy Roosevelt said, if you don't try, you don't have the opportunity to make a difference. You don't have the opportunity to make an impact. 12 years ago, in 2010, a group of us came together. Many of you, you might have been a principal or maybe even a senior associate then. If you remember back in 2010, we created Vision 2020. And as you recall, it was about, growing into a global firm with, many, many offices. It was about, having many practice areas. And then it was about innovation and doing research and being out there as an innovator. And then there was this last part, and this was really important to us when we were creating that Vision 2020. Again, this was 10 years before 2020. We said, being big being able to do a lot of things, being innovative is not enough. We need to have a purpose for all of this. And we literally put on there that we want to make a difference. And it was kind of a moment because our firm had never actually said, you know, there's a purpose to all of this. And that then grew into the statement that got even more specific. We want to create a better world. And that was in 2010, and thinking about our vision for 2020. Who knew that in 2020, that was the year that the most calamitous crisis, the most deeply tragic crisis was going to happen in the world? Who knew that in 2020 that everything was going to change? That the world would need a firm that cared. You know, people are looking for someone or a firm like Gensler who cares and who dares greatly, even when things get tough.
So what counts is that we, Gensler, are in the arena. That's what we do every day. We're rolling up our sleeves and taking the world's largest challenges, working closely with our clients on global opportunities. We're striving, as Diane said, to make a difference through you, the most talented, entrepreneurial people in the world. It's not the accolades, it's not the awards, it's not the praise that counts. What counts is that we're here in the arena and making an impact on our world. We do dare greatly, striving towards our purpose, our why, to create a better world through the power of design. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complication,